while every other Commonwealth agency, governor's office, police departments, townships, school districts are subject to this law and would be required to provide public record, Penn State is exempt. That came as a result of a series of lobbying efforts through the House of Representatives that was taking a look at rewriting Pennsylvania's right-to-know law, which was really among the worst in the nation. What you have to keep in mind is that if you were at any of the police departments in the Commonwealth, you know, incident reports are in fact available under the right-to-know law. Penn State, because it enjoys, along with Temple, Pitt, Lincoln, and, you know, this exception, they are not subject. Let's just, you know, do a flat comparison. If this were an investigation involving another university, say East Stroudsburg University, that did have a scandal at its doorstep, they were subject to the right-to-know law. You were able to obtain, in that situation, emails, copies of incident reports of the police department, any kind of policies that came out with the Board of Trustees, that would all be available. At Penn State, however, that's off limits.
There are only 3 states in the United States in which their similarly situated universities are not covered, and that's Alaska, Delaware, and Pennsylvania. And I'm only focusing in this moment on Penn State because of the Sandusky scenario. But when that situation occurred, it was the #1 issue that brought to the Office of Open Records the highest volume of requests and appeals related to that. None of that information became available under this right-to-know law. You know, one thing I think that as you consider whether to cover the state-relateds, I think that as you look around the country, there's no university that's not without, there's no institution, Office of Open Records included probably, that's not without those, you know, sort of squishy moments of embarrassment if a public record is released. The cost of not having a Freedom of Information Act or a right-to-know law access, I would assert, is much greater than the cost that is associated. And there's definite costs, and we've talked about those before, commercial fees and things like that. I can tell you that there's a direct correlation between corruption and poor right-to-know laws, and I would encourage you to keep that in mind. More information than not will be able to be withheld even if you do cover these state-related institutions by the mere fact of the fact that we have 30 exceptions in this law. This by no means is the most aggressive in the United States, or even federally in that regard. And so I do think that it would be a tremendous effort on the state-related parts to, you know, to come under this and to even just sit down and figure out how to come under it. But the reality is, if anyone's operating under the misconception that you're going to see, you know, thousands and thousands and thousands of records pour out, I don't think that's the case. And also, I would like to say this. If somebody is looking to fix 444 because they think it would prevent a Jerry Sandusky scandal, it wouldn't. You could have the strongest right-to-know law in the United States of America, and those horrific crimes were still going to happen. The difference is that you might have found out a little earlier in this regard. And as the Deputy Director has often pointed out, something that I've missed regularly, we got right-to-know requests related to Penn State and the Sandusky scenario. We didn't know that at the time, but in retrospect, when you look at these requests from the newspapers, they knew something was going on, but they immediately got dismissed out our door because Penn State wasn't covered. Not that I'm not suggesting that that's a reason to do it. I think it's unfair for Penn State to bear the mantle that if there would have been a strong right-to-know law, this could have been solved. I don't think that. There may have been things that have been done differently along the way to get it lots earlier, but for anybody that's thinking that a rewritten right-to-know law is going to prevent the next Jerry Sandusky, save your ink.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.